we must not forget that Indian education system was always a great education system at one point of time, undoubtedly.
Yeah.
And it has basically opened ways for different philosophers to come and experiment and learn something from it. And so these philosophers learned a lot of things from Indian education system.
Yeah.
So most of the philosophers from the British, for example, Descartes or Immanuel Kant or Socrates, all these have those elements of educations and their way of thinking, which can be said directly borrowed from Indian education system, Vedic education system.
Generally, now if you see that, if you look around, you'll find that most of the schools are English medium now. I think Hindi medium schools can be counted on your fingertips.
Right,
They're
right.
very few in numbers. These English medium schools are mushrooming. So, what do you think? This is going to push the Indian languages out of the mainstream of education and academics? Good evening, Robin. And being a teacher today, I would like you to discuss a little about Indian education system. Now, as we see that nowadays everybody is studying with English medium schools, and what I have observed is that especially people, I mean students who are coming from rural background, they are having to suffer a lot because we know that in the Indian families, the communication language is Hindi, and most of the people who come from rural background are likely to talk and discuss and talk to each other. The language is going to be Hindi. So when they go to school and they find that everything is being taught to them in English, they find it difficult to cope with that kind of environment, and as a result they're cramming the things, but they're not getting what's written and what is really there in those books, and they're able to score marks. The reason is that they're cramming the things, but what the result is that they're not getting the things properly. And as a result we see that there is a lot of unemployment in India, and this is the root cause, I would say. Because if you are studying but you don't really have the real knowledge, then you will have to suffer, and that's what is happening. So this is something which we are going to talk about. We are talking about this system which was actually introduced by Macaulay, right? And this happened when India was under the British rule, right? So would you say like to say something about it so that we can advance this conversation?
Okay. By the way, Macaulay's education system, which we know as the English education system, now and then has been a part of discussion. But for last almost 5 years or 10 years, by and large, we can say that Macaulay's education system, English education system, has been under a heavy criticism because there is a notion and very popular notion which says that Macaulay's education system has somewhere undermined Indic consciousness or has undermined Indian education system, and therefore it has made Indians to be British consciously rather than Indians, rather than the origin, the geography they belong to. So even we call ourselves Indian, but we carry the burden of Indic consciousness, which means we carry the burden of British consciousness in Indic body, right? So the criticism is only for the reason that how we could eliminate this British education system called English education system and try to prevail over it our old uh, Vedic system, you can say, or our Indian education system, which is basically dealing with dharmic values probably, and which deals with regional languages and which supports regional languages more. So there is a clash and a conflict going on because we have two sections. One that basically promotes and supports in English education system as it is the requirement, as it is the need for the time being and for the future to come. And the other section calls it a curse on our education system as it has somewhere made Indians subjugated to British authority. Even British have already, I think, uh, freed us from their slavery. So we are somewhere still feeling this subjugation on the level of our psychological, dealings with routine issues. So that's what we are going to discuss. Yeah.
Okay, as we know that English is a linked language. I mean, it is a linked language, and when you are going to work overseas, then you are supposed to be knowing this language, and that's why this is how you can converse the people who are from other countries. So it opens the door of opportunities for you. At the same time, has also become a hindrance, especially for the people, as I'm talking, as you talked about, that people who are coming from a rural background, they're having to suffer a lot, right?
Right.
So the question I'm going to ask you is, tell me, did English unify the Indian education system, or did it deepen social and class inequalities?
Uh, Let me first of all tell you that we need to have a little bit kind of basic understanding about the social, political, and economic condition when English education was introduced to our Indic society. And as we all know that Macaulay introduced that in somewhere 1835 after passing 1813 Charter Act. 1813 Charter Act was basically an act which was basically passed by the British Parliament there, and they decided to invest some around 1 lakh rupees annually, especially in the development of Indian education system by introducing English education system or what sounds appropriate for people like us. So the basic situations or the circumstances under which it was introduced, it was very uh, diabolical, conditions. Social and political and economically, we were very, I think, poor. And not because we were poor right from the Vedic age, just because of we know that over the time we faced a lot of suppressions and invasions by different dynasties, Mughal and Europeans.
And they came and looted us, right?
Obviously, so somewhere it led us to face this kind of situation in the society. Our education system was almost destroyed over the time, and we were left with nothing. So it was almost a breeding field for the British to come and make experiments, not for Indian society, but for their personal benefits. So they basically were talking about what form of education must be introduced to India. So their main purpose was just to mold Indian population to bring more benefits to British people. That was the first objective behind introducing British education to India, not to make Indian educated, not to make Indian society, socially and politically empowered. This is the first thing which we must not, forget. Now we have understood that they were working on some evil master plan, right? Now, we also need to know that our social conditions and educational conditions by the time when it was introduced was very morbid. Why? Because as per the 1881 census, we learned that out of 9 crore of women, almost 8 crore or 95 or 97 lakh women were illiterate. A very insignificant number of population, girl population, women population were literate, right? And the condition of male was not too much different from that. Even male community was somewhere uh, hanging on the same wall because both the conditions, male and female, were very uh, dilapidated in terms of their education, in terms of social condition. So then, question which arose thereafter, on the one side we had Macaulay's team, who belonged to Anglicist, and on the other side we have Orientalist. So Orientalist by basically supporting not the English system to be introduced to Indian, but Hindi system. Because according to Orientalists, they were in apprehension that if English education is introduced to Indian, then tomorrow these Indians would come and try to demand freedom from us. Understand? So
Yeah.
therefore, they were against the serving of English education system to Indian society. On the other hand, Macaulay's, who was on the Anglicist side, was in favor of serving English education system to Indian. The reason he actually put forth was that he wanted Indian to be educated for the British benefits.
So that they could work with them.
But at the same time, he also told that even when these Indian society at some point of time in future empowered with the help of English education, and even when they try to demand freedom from us and try to suppress us or demand for their rights, then it will be the other side victory for English or for the British act. They helped a poor community like Indian to basically come out and stand for their rights. So the credit will be also given then to English society. So that was the objective, and that was the basic argument was put on the table, and people and most of both of the parties were discussing on, and finally it was decided that English education system must be introduced. So that was all the background that was basically somewhere formed before this very introduction of English education to India. So we need to understand this very first key on what reasons English education system was introduced. Was it only for the betterment of Indian people, or it was just through Indian people to British people? So this is what we have to see in this very picture. Yeah.
So now tell me, has it deepened the inequalities in the society, or has it unified somewhere?
Deepen. See, even today, if you go to a village, and in fact, if you try to see the total population of village, in fact, even today, around 80%, 82% of women population live in villages, which means is that if we try to calculate male population against the female in proportion wise, then around 49 to 50% belong to women, and 50 to 51% is belong to men community. So out of 49 and 50% of women population total in India, around 82% still live in village. And what is more striking and I mean appallingly dejectionable is that around 70% of the total women or the girls are not able to clear or reach to 12th standard, which means they are dropout way before they pass the 12th standard.
School dropout.
Yes. So if this is not at all a discussion of English or Hindi, we are talking about everything from the prevailing education standard currently, because you go to village, there is no as such English education setup.
Yeah.
And whatever there is in the
Government
primary
schools
form.
are available.
Yes.
And they're Hindi medium.
So even the Hindi education system is not able to deal with the demands, what we exactly call the demand of the education, that students must be at least properly educated, are not able to cover the population of women, especially in village. So in my opinion, it is really that affects, and I think it increases inequality, because then we compare women in village from the women in urban area, then we find a very stark difference. I don't say that women in urban areas or mostly are educated and most of them are employed and getting a good salary, and their economic dependency on their male partner is somewhat reduced. No, not at all. Even their dependency on male for the financial reason is almost equal to that of their village counterparts, right? So we should not forget. So inequality is prevailing everywhere. So we should not forget. Now we can have a discussion on what basically could be held as a reasonable cause for this. Is it just because of this English education system has caused this inequality, or we have already this Hindi education system, and still this Hindi education system couldn't meet the demand of this large number of population living in village? So the end, I think, result is that we have to discuss what it could be. Yeah.
Okay. So you mean to say that English those English
Hmm.
introduction of English, education system has somewhere deepened the, you can say the inequality,
Yeah,
or we cannot even say this because there is no match actually if
hmm.
you go to villages and if you come to cities, so you don't find much difference.
Obviously,
Right.
not much.
Okay. So tell me one more thing, that is the dominance of
Hmm.
English pushing Indian languages out of mainstream education and academics? Because generally now, if you see that, if you look around, you'll find that most of the schools are English medium now. I think Hindi medium schools can be counted on your fingertips.
Right, right,
They're
right.
very, very few in numbers. These English medium schools are mushrooming.
Hmm.
So what do you think, this is going to push the Indian languages out of the mainstream of education and academics?
See, I cannot take this extreme position, but I would have my own way to settle this issue. See, we are talking about Indian education system, and that too we are talking about what happened after 1947, because we are now sovereign state, so we cannot still hold British for everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we are governing our country, and we have all power. We have the education system, we have the central government, we have all authorities. Even the constitution has lay down a certain rules and articles which basically supports the education system to be more robust.
Mm-hmm.
So we cannot hold British for every time, right? Now then whom we can hold responsible for all that? And then I think Indian education system literally is not that what we see today. For example, let's even consider for a minute that what if this English education system was not here or were not here?
Mm-hmm.
Then would that Hindi be possibly okay and enough to meet up with the demands of the international education setup, or according to the international education standard? For
Obviously.
example, today most of us are striving for development, progress,
Yeah.
technological advancement. Then for that we need to ensure books must be written pertaining to technological subjects in Hindi language.
Mm-hmm.
We really don't find many writers coming out as we see in English.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I come from a law background, and when I read books pertaining to law subjects, there are hundreds of writers writing law books, right? I really don't find whether some Indian writers have done that remarkable job. I don't say that they cannot do that, but those who are there in the list are basically following the steps of British law
Mm-hmm.
system, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have anything which could be really called as original, which belongs to our personal, soil. For example, whenever we talk about Indian law, we always try to point out our finger to our Vedic system,
Mm-hmm.
right? We don't have any book which represents Indian law from the Vedic style. So you can say that English education system somewhere undermining Hindi language, or trying to subdue Hindi language, or trying to throw out this Hindi culture from the education system. But even if it is so, then do we have alternative? That's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
So if we today reject this English system and try to build up this Hindi environment all over, then would that be possible for for us to gather all that material again, and to gather this large number of books in Hindi, moreover well researched papers on the subjects which are really important? Because you cannot pursue subjects like technology, subjects like law, subjects like medical, which basically required English based medical training. So until you have books in Hindi writing on these given subjects, you can say that English system has completely undermined in the Hindi education system, has somewhere subsided the positive effect of Hindi language or the other regional languages. But I think we should not do that. We should not, because we don't have other alternative too. So
Mm-hmm.
both the stands could be raised here. Both the positions could be made here.
Mm-hmm.
It depends how we are true to us, because we can say the British literally done wrong to us, but do we have alternative at this point of time?
Mm-hmm.
So this must be seen in that way also.
Okay. You simply want to say that India has got a lot of diversity, and in one state Hindi is spoken. If you go to some other states, you'll find that the other languages are being spoken. So
Right.
we cannot have the system in one particular language, because
Right.
that's going to be impossible. this Hindi medium system can be here in North India, but if you go to South India, you'll find that it's not going to be possible
Right,
because they'll
right,
have their own language and they don't find themselves to be comfortable enough in Hindi,
right,
right? So if they go for English, I think they find way more comfortable. Themselves way more comfortable than they find themselves in Hindi.
right,
So
right,
that's why I think this is going to be quite difficult if we implement or enforce one particular language
right,
to
right,
be the language of our education system.
right, right.
Okay. The next thing which I want to ask you is tell me learning outcomes have in English medium schools improved learning outcomes or it has just only increased student stress?
So you mean to say, try to differentiate languages on the basis of its productivity?
Yeah, so let me be more clear. For example, when I see that students are learning, but what they're not able to understand because they don't have this environment in their
Yeah.
homes and their families. As a result, they are having to struggle, right?
Hmm.
And because they struggle, so that they cannot write on their own. They must have understood the concept because they're being taught in Hindi, but the books are in English. So they may be knowing the concept, but when it comes to writing they find it difficult or they
Hmm.
find it difficult to explain
Right,
in
right,
this
right.
particular language. So do you think that this has made the matters worse, especially for for learning, or it has improved the productivity of the students?
Uh, uh, Let me be very clear on this part, because since we are talking about education system, so we are much oriented towards development, progress,
Yeah.
and progress in a sense of technology, in a sense of humanity, in a sense of happiness, in a sense of economic, in all possible sense, which basically increases the value of a country, which makes a country more prosperous,
Mm.
more individual prosperous, right?
Mm.
We must not forget that Indian education system uh, was always a great education system at one point of time, undoubtedly.
Yeah.
And it has basically opened ways for different philosophers to come and experiment and learn something from it. And
Mm.
so these philosophers learned a lot of things from Indian education system.
Yeah.
So most of the philosophers from the British, for example, Descartes or Immanuel Kant or Socrates, all these have those elements of educations and their way of thinking, which can be said directly borrowed from Indian education system, Vedic
Mm.
education system.
Mm.
The best part, which I basically find, is that they adopt things which were good
Mm.
from us,
Mm.
and they accepted it
Mm.
without showing any repulsive fact.
Mm.
They accepted it because they found it reasonable, because it helped them develop,
Mm.
because rationality, questionings, discussions and debating were always the part of Indian Vedic system.
Mm.
It was never to be a part of other education system or other civilization.
Mm.
Therefore we were the most prosperous education system or the most prosperous society during the Vedic
Mm.
age, right? So we had even women participating in discussion and debates, so Maitri, such kind of women were participating in debate and discussion during Vedic age.
Mm.
So we know all these things. Now time has come for us to be doing the same thing what British did to us, but
Mm.
Europeans did to us. British and Europeans did a lot of things, and they acquired a lot of wisdom from our scriptures,
Mm.
and they learned a lot of things from it. However, they translated it for their benefits. They
Mm.
did it. Now, the same thing which we know or which we must do is that we also try to read their books. Because what I find is that when we read their books, we are indirectly reading our books.
Mm.
That's how I consider this.
Mm.
Because their books, for example, when I was reading Immanuel Kant, a critic of pure reason, then I found it is purely being governed by some sort of Upanishad.
Mm.
Because when he talks about faith, and when he admits that your empirical understanding, your rational understanding cannot ever help you to reach, to grasp the very supernatural understanding or the existence of God, and
Mm.
therefore you need to take resort to faith.
Mm.
So he is indirectly admitting that faith could be the bestest way to meet or to experience the godly power, to exist
Mm.
and to know or perceive the existence of God.
Yeah.
So he's admitting that, and
Mm.
that's what we have did, especially in the Veda system.
Mm.
So what I'm thinking is that we also must acquire the knowledge of what British have done from us. We need to read their books, considering that is not belong to them completely, it belongs to us. Only a change is only in the language, which is English. Second important thing, you go to different part of the country, let's say North India, most of the books are in English language. Yeah. Right from the elementary section. Only the fifth standard provide books pertaining to Hindi subjects. Now it is your choice whether you want to adopt or to basically select some Hindi related subject or the Sanskrit. That will be your personal choice. But apart from this, what is more important is that even a student learning or reading English language, he is able to develop concept in Hindi. For example, I come from a MP board, you come from MP board. Yeah. So we throughout read Hindi books or English books, right? That was not even NCRT. But what we tried to develop concept in Hindi. So this is for sure that yeah, it takes time. And it really takes time as such that it really difficult sometimes that on the first sight we cannot grasp the very concept because it is in English language. Yeah. But since it is important right now, because it meets up the demand, it meets up the standard of international education system, at least we'll try to acquire that element in us to cope with the international education system. So we have a choice. So the choice is that whether you reject English education system and deploy Hindi education system based on the same subjects, based on the same writing, then maybe you could be doing good. But on the other hand, at the same point, you would have to be meeting with the international standard. Yeah. Right? And for that reason, I think we need to make a stark balance between Hindi education system, English education system, or you can say English education system and regional education system. And that what we see right now entirely in the judiciary field, in the legal field. For example, in the district court, you go to that you are allowed to speak English. Oh, sorry, Hindi. Even you may file a petition or the case in Hindi language. There is not at all a problem. People want or the judge won't even reject on the basis of it. But when it comes to High Court or the Supreme Court, then it becomes a little urgency for you that you have to carry out with English language. Probably because then you are representing a particular state. The best thing about this education system, not just because of it is English, not just because it is, in fact, it is not better than Hindi and Sanskrit, to be very honest, grammatically, because grammatically English stands nowhere comparing to Hindi and Sanskrit. So let me admit this very fact. But at least it helps us connect with other states. For example, this is a country full of diversities. Yeah. Multiple languages are spoken widely. Yeah. Now, if we give priority to one specific language, let's say Hindi language to the North India, then tomorrow we will have again a different regional populations will arise and will try to demonstrate the represent a protest on the basis they want the same regional language to be adopted as Hindi being adopted in North India. So that will be a conflicting kind of situation would be arising and that will lead to chaos. So the fact which we need to admit is that English could be held as a linking language or link language. I think that's really good. And I think people are really doing good. What we can do apart from this, that we can provide a certain secondary level of education system to especially those living in the remotest part of the area, rather than talking and discussing and investing energy for the political purpose of what that this education system is completely wrong and it has completely undermined Indic consciousness, and therefore we need to set Indian conscious free from the British consciousness, and therefore we want to eliminate Indian English education system. So I think this is not going to be working at all. We need to develop this we need to be very mature on this. So we have to be very selective and sagacious on this very, because politicians are there to play politics and they really don't have much to do apart from this. Because if you ask these politicians what they have done in last 10 years into making Hindi education system to be robust, then in the name of investment they have done the very insignificant uh, fund, let's say 8 to 10 crore rupees fund, and that has not been used for the rightful purpose. Then saying and doing are the two different things that will say.
Yeah, as because this is the age of globalization and we are the global citizens.
Right.
So if we have more than one language, right, under our belt, we have the knowledge of more than one language. Because when I was studying, there was a teacher of mine and he would teach us English, especially, in the university. And actually we were being taught free of cost, right? So what he said that this was his, you can say, his mission, that he wanted his students to have knowledge of more than one language. He said if we want to become successful in our life, then we should have at least three languages. We should know at least three languages. First, our mother tongue. The second is the language of the country, and the third is at least one international language.
Right.
So I think if you're being given you're being imparted, the knowledge of international language, this is not at all bad. I think somewhere you're going to be benefited in the long term, in the long run, right? So I think somewhere it is going to help you
Right.
in the days to come, right? And side by side you can improve your other languages as well, and there is no
Right.
harm actually. And if when somebody says that it is affecting the productivity of the students, then because it's a different language, right? So like to learn it side by side. No, I'm not saying that just by learning books you're going to learn it. You have to
Obviously.
make some additional efforts, and that has to be there, I think. And I think there are certain schools which have language labs, and there they are given special trainings. But yes, I admit that it is not available in each and every school. And I think this is the step which can be taken to improve the you can say the efficacy of students, especially language efficacy, right? So this is what we can do. And that's why I always say that it should not be a kind of hindrance, because being an English teacher, um why do I support, and why do I support the students? Why do I just encourage them to learn? Because somewhere they will have some benefits. Because for example, if the books which are available in Hindi, and they're written by those people, those writers who know Hindi, right, and who write in Hindi, but you also want to learn something more, and
Right.
if you want to know what other people have written, then I think you should be having the knowledge of some other language,
Right.
so that you can enrich your knowledge,
Right.
right? So this is what I personally feel. I don't know what people, maybe their opinion may be differing from mine, but this is what I believe. The next thing which you have to tell me is that does English democratize access to global knowledge, or does it benefit primarily the urban educated elite?
Uh, Ever since we have become globalized, then there are certain parameters, there are certain instructions that we all are bound to. And one of those instruction is that we need to compete and try to be in the race, which is called a global race. And therefore, we need to be pursuing at least few things which are common in pursuits of many countries, which is education of different countries. Even you go to China, China is one of the most fast developing countries right now. In fact, it has, posed threat to USA that in just next 5 or 10 years, it is going to be the supreme power. When you see the education system of China, even China has more than 3 to 4 lakh um, English education system, universities, 3 to 4 lakhs, far more than India.
Yes.
And these people are freed. People there are free to acquire English language and to know more about English people and their literature and everything. So they actually provide their people a varied of I think rooms for the self development, for intellectual advancement. Because until you know how the world functions, until you know the literature of different countries, until you know the education system of different countries and their overall social, economic, and political, historical understandings, then I think you cannot develop, and you can really not develop the very skill of how to be well governing society now. So we need to learn this particularly from China also. Okay, now what was your question to this? What was your question?
So my question was, do you think that this? My question was, does English democratize access to
Yes.
global?
Now the question comes democratization of English language. As I was talking about, we have become globalized. So what makes us globalized? Not just the trading or transactions of trade, but also the communication. And English has become an international language. Remember, when we say English is an international language, is because of it has a certain qualities. See, I don't want to discuss the qualities of English language. What I want to discuss is that the opportunities that we have in English language. Most of the countries adopt English language already as their official language. Most of the countries. Okay. So for that reason, we also must adopt, because we are the part of global.
Global, yeah.
So we have to follow certain instruction. We are also doing trades with different countries. Secondly, most of the big universities are there in abroad. And I think which we should not hesitate about accepting this fact that our country's universities education system are not even the list of 100 top colleges.
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So either you have to decide whether you don't want to pursue English languages, or you want to have a good education system, good education abroad. So you have a choice. If you choose the first, which means you don't want to adopt English education system, then forget about having a good education abroad, right?
Yeah.
We should also not forget one, that remittance is one of the most strong revenue generator for a country like India, which is developing country, which means if students learning here or there abroad, and when they get settled, not permanently getting the citizenship abroad, but when they start earning money, they actually try to, or they basically start sending money to India.
Yeah.
So what we call it remittance. We receive remittance from Indian serving people in abroad soil. So in this way, our economy also generates. And that is only possible due to English language, right? Because only on the basis of English language, you are given certain kind of portfolios in different companies, right? Third important thing, I really don't find it's really a strong reason, but you go to multinational companies or metro cities, for example, New Delhi, Pune, there are hundreds of English based call centers, BPOs.
Yeah.
I really don't consider BPOs as a job professional because it only deals with language. Moreover, it doesn't give us a vast scope for a development because it is only dealing with a certain kind of one activity, dealing probably with your credit card or something, because we are treated as a handle to govern or to basically to serve a certain kind of situation or certain kind of organizations established in abroad. So we are a service provider in that sense. So we are also becoming a service provider in this. So this VPO also cover up a large percentage of unemployment problem in India. So if we discourage people from learning language, then this is going to be debacle again for that particular BPO sector. See, what we need today is the employment first. Second, we need also a certain kind of efficiency in our way of how do we work. English gives us this more effectively than Hindi. In Hindi or other languages could go. I'm not against Hindi or regional languages. I'm completely not against of it. What I'm saying is that we have to go along with the flow where the world is flowing.
We have to swim with the tide.
Yes, we have to swim with the tide, right? Once we are established, once we have got enough in our trade, in our stability on the basis of finance, economic, social, political, and we have developed a certain kind of technology, and we have moreover increased our manufacturing, which means we have multiplied our exporting, which is basically very common in China and USA, because a large number of manufacturing and the exportings are basically done by these two countries, right? And if we do that, then we would have this very right to talk about what to adopt and what not to adopt. Then we can pose this very challenge even against other country that you come to India, and if your first priority is to learn Hindi language, and then you'll be given chance. So we should not be forcing and thrusting upon a certain rule on people, accepting the fact that even if we do that, it is not going to be fruitful. It is not going to extract any fruitful. First, we have to be able. And once we become able and competent, things will already be, for example, hegemony is a term which is used for what? America. America never tells us or imposes English to be spoken in India, or English to be spoken in China, or English to be spoken in different. They never tell us. We have to adopt it because they have a certain kind of mechanism. For example, out of 14 root servers, 12 are installed in America. So the entire networking which you see around the world, or the computer functioning, or the computer practicing, or the computer work, are basically governed by America, because everything is being served by the 12 root server. So everything is being deposited there. So they have this very right to do whatsoever they want.
Hmm.
And we need to develop at least this much of quality,
Hmm.
and then we can have a discussion on what education system we should adopt or not.
Hmm. And one more thing, that if you talk about Hindi speaking people, I think they're found in India only, and those who are Indians are are able to speak in Hindi. So we can't actually expect the other
Right, right.
country to speak in the same
Right.
language, right? And when it comes to talking about another languages, so I don't think that any other language except English is as simple as it, right? English is the simplest of the languages. I would if what I believe is, because if you talk about Russian, if you talk about
French.
Japanese, Chinese,
Mm.
the French, Spanish, they are very tough
I've
languages.
enrolled for French language already for
Yeah,
last 10 days, and
yeah.
I've been learning French, and I understand. I mean, it's not easy.
It's
It
not
is not
easy.
at all
See
easy.
the pronunciation.
Mm.
See, but English is really
Yeah,
way
yeah.
way simpler, I would say, than these languages, and that's why I think that's why it's been declared the international language. So people can easily speak it,
Hmm.
right? And that's why now see look around, and you'll find that most of the people in India are able to speak in English. Why? Because of its simplicity, right? Because and for Indians, I think this is the best and this is the simplest language, right? All the Indians who are able to speak Hindi, because we are Indian, we are able to speak Hindi. They can speak better in English than other people
Right, right,
from other
right.
country. You might have seen, right? So this is I think this is if we want our progress, if we want to know the other cultures and what kind of literature they are reading. So I think we should be going for the languages, and I think English is one of those languages, right? Tell me, last but not the least, should India formally adopt a dual language education model for equity or and global competitiveness?
Um, what to say, but for India, having seen India's geography and this is spreading vast diversities, moreover, multiple languages are being spoken widely in different regions. So this dual language program, I don't think would be, I think, successful. It would rather be seen as a challenge or as a threat to the practice of other forms of religious language, because Hindi is widely spoken in North Belt.
Yeah,
Now, when you go to South, you may have a different regional languages there.
yeah.
So let's say we make Hindi and English and put this in dual program, then I think it will be seen as a threat to this existential, reality of other regional languages.
Hmm.
It will lead, division
Yeah.
in the ideology, or it will somewhere lead, separation between the communities, between the people, between the states, between the directions south and north.
Hmm.
And India is already a subcontinent
Hmm.
full of, so we have different states, and they have their different identities, different, and that what we are known for, and that what is our quality.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So having said and having known all these things, dual nature or dual program of language, I think would be even more hazardous than effective. However, we can do one thing replacing this very first idea of the program is that English would be okay as an official language for most of the work, and regional languages should be given the nature of second language.
Hmm.
For example, in the northern world, you can give Hindi as a second language.
Hmm.
You know, after English or before English, whatever you can say. Okay, you go to south, you can put English as a first language, official language, and other regional language as that second
Hmm.
language, according to the need of the people largely living in that particular region. Secondly, which language they belong to, speak widely. Now, having calculated all these things, they can actually set the second language accordingly, rather than imposing Hindi language as a part of dual language program.
Hmm.
And I think this will never be accepted. In fact, Hindi language, ever since this very discussion and debate arose and is surfacing, it started recently surfacing in
Hmm.
the news channel that Hindi should be given or should be titled as a national language. We want that, okay, it is okay because we come from North Belt. So
Hmm.
we taking part in this.
Yeah, we
Obviously,
have no objection
how would we have, and why should we have this
because other
obligation?
we talk in this language, so we have no
Obviously,
problem.
we have no problem, but we need to think from their standpoint also,
Hmm.
because they are also part of this country. They are not different from us. We are
Yeah.
not different from them. What makes India is not just north only.
Hmm.
South is also the part of India. West is also the part of India. East is also the part of India.
Hmm.
So we need to consider all their opinions. And even we want to do that, let's go with the consensus model. Model means
Hmm.
let's take consensus first from all these,
Hmm.
and whether they are agreeing on this matter, and if they agree, then this will be well and good.
Hmm.
And if we don't, then we can talk about other possible uh, channels, other possible options, and that's how we can think about it. Rather than, I really don't think we should be choosing this very conflicting mode.
Hmm.
Consensus model is quite an acceptable one.
And I think the best step can which can be taken is that as we always say that students coming from rural background are having to suffer because of the lack of you can say availability of
Hmm.
the environment,
Hmm.
right? So they can be given one opportunity, like they can be provided some, or they can be imparted separate classes where they are being trained for this, and they will also be having some skill. I mean, this language can act or function as a skill for them, and this is going to come in handy
Right.
when they are applying for the jobs, and they are they are going going to some other countries. So this is what can be the possible measure that can be taken, especially for the improvement of the, you can say, these students, right? So this is something which we wanted to talk about. The solution is that if you think that you are struggling with the language, I think there are so many Hindi medium schools available.
Yes.
So nobody is forcing you to go into English medium school. This
Right.
is
Right.
your choice, right? If you go to some government schools, you can study there. We have also, actually, I've also studied from the government school. So
Right.
I
Right.
don't really say, if you are really willing to learn, you can learn it, and at any age you want, right? So we should not be blaming the language for the, you can say, decline of decline in performance, especially of students. uh, English, English language never says that, that just come and learn me, right? So it is your choice ultimately, right?
Hmm.
So if you want to learn with this medium, you can, and if you want to learn with Hindi medium schools, you can also go for them,
Right.
right? So choice is ours. So we cannot hold the language responsible,
Hmm.
because somebody said that there are no clashes between the languages.
Hmm.
It's the people who always clash,
Right.
right?
Right.
So language doesn't have any, you can say, it's not a person, right,
Right.
that can
Right.
start
Right.
fighting with you. So this is something we wanted to talk about, and I will be seeing you in the next video. Till then, take
Yeah.
care, and keep commenting, keep letting us know about the content we are creating, so that we can improve with every video. We will try to improve our
Right. Right.
quality, and we will be providing or catering to the needs of the people,
Right.
right? So for the time being, I'm taking a leave. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.